Yeah, some days I feel unfazed, like when I'm with my friends with a cup raised. Come Monday, I got a gun raised. Suicidal, do or die until hump day. Then I go right back at it like an automatic. More drinks, more songs, more beats to rap. I need a shrink, I'm gone. More time keeps passing. No watch, no thoughts at all. Just a hat, new era. Rep my P's and those O's. Need us Phillies with the orange and black to feel home. From Citizens Bank back to Camden Yards. It's a tale of two cities, and trust we go hard. Trust we go hard. Yes, we go hard. You said we go hard. I said we go hard. Rockin' my Bob Cousy, stocking up on the loose. The lyrics come easy, but the life is a doozy. And yes, I'm choosy, and no, I won't settle, but I still take pop off over that kettle. Cause I'm talking bigger picture, and yes, I'm gonna hit you with the...
Australia is home to many famous racing drivers, such as Mark Webber, Daniel Ricciardo, Peter Brock, and myself, just to name a few. But in today's video, we won't be talking about these famous racing drivers, because they've already had their time in the sun. Instead, we'll be focusing on some of Australia's greatest weapons behind the wheel, such as James from Carrum Downs. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's get into the greatest drivers in Australian history. In this video, we're going to start off with a bang. Quite literally. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't know too much about drug smuggling, but I would assume that the first rule of drug smuggling is to avoid police at all costs. Now, obviously, this van driver right here knew even less about drug smuggling than I do. You see, when you first see this video of a man crashing a van into a parked police car, you don't really think much of it, because in our major cities, that's pretty much nothing out of the ordinary. Now, obviously, the police weren't too happy when they found out that their Commodore had been mangled, so they decided to hunt down this high ace, and when they eventually found it, they found out that it had over 270 kilos of ice in the back. Now, I don't know how he managed to crash this high ace into the police car, but luckily for you, I've come up with two possible reasons. The first one being that he possibly helped himself to some of the product in the back of the van, therefore putting the high in high ace, or maybe he lost control because when he came around that corner, he was carrying too much speed. Now, I'm not too sure what happened to the driver after the fact, but something tells me he didn't get off on good behaviour. Anyway, that's enough about the story of the Toyota High on Ice. Because what's the opposite of ice? That's right, fire. As you can see here, this Mitsubishi Magna driver was driving down the freeway with only 3 tyres. Now, while an occasional rim bashing is nothing out of the ordinary for us Australians, Captain Magna took it to a whole nother level while doing it at 110 k's an hour on the freeway. Now, while this baby green Magna with 3 tyres, no number plates and a smashed out rear taillight may be a great sight to see, it's not even the best part of this video. You see, if this took place in the middle of winter, no one would really care that much, but due to the fact that it took place in the middle of bushfire season, it was a bit more urgent to stop this man from lighting spot fires, hence this dramatic arrest. But even after the action-packed citizen's arrest and hectic camera work, the man himself had the perfect answer for every question that the media could throw at him.
What happened to your wheel?
It popped just before, mate.
Why didn't you stop?
So I couldn't pop the boot with a spare.
What if you started fires with the sparks?
I'm a silly bloke. I'm not that silly, am I? If I started a fire, I would have stopped and put it out.
The 27-year-old driver hasn't been charged over the spot fires.
And to round this action-packed news story off, we even got an interview from the legend himself, Dave Pringle. Rumour has it, he's not named after the chips are named after him. Now, before we get into this next one, I'm going to have to ask you to press that subscribe button. We've rocketed past 69,000 and we're closing in on 100,000. Still haven't pressed it yet? That's alright, I'll wait. Alright, good. Now, this next one happened fairly recently. For the sake of this story, we'll call this man Chris, short for Crystal Meth. Now, Chris somehow managed to get his hands on someone else's Mercedes and was driving this stolen foreign around with what I assume was his wife or girlfriend in the passenger seat. Now, the title of this video is Australia's Greatest Drivers, and Chris is no exception, and he knew it. Now, after being cornered in a shopping centre car park, Chris had 2 options: either get arrested arrested or make a run for it. So logically, Chris put his foot straight to the floor, ran straight over this spike strip and initiated a high-speed chase. Now Chrissy boy knew that he was an absolute weapon behind the wheel, and in between dodging pedestrians on the wrong side of the road, he made sure to remind his passenger and the viewers that he didn't know he'd end up having just how good of a driver he was.
Now how's that for driving, Don?
Get me away.
Good driving or not?
Good boy, get me away.
That was mad driving, Don.
Calm down, you're right, just keep driving.
That was wicked driving, baby. Fuck, mate. Lucky I got out of there like I did. Not one scratch on the car. Nobody thinks in this country. Right.
Now after he makes his way through the traffic and finds an empty road where he can unleash the beast, they have this small conversation,
Ready to chase?
Yeah.
run a red light and instantly smash into a Ford Ranger. Now you all know that you can't frighten a Trident, but what you can do is slam a stolen Mercedes into it. Now after somehow surviving, they manage to make the slowest on-foot escape of all time and get instantly arrested. But the most interesting part about this whole story is the fact that the accident involved a Ford Ranger. And in quite possibly the first time in Australian history, it wasn't the Ford Ranger doing 3 times the speed limit and running the red light. Now before we get into this next one, I have a quick math question for you guys. What do you get when you get a Mitsubishi Magna with no tyre on the back left wheel driving down the freeway and times it by 3? That's right, you get 1B double with the 3 back left wheels all missing tyres, also driving on the freeway. Now back in November of 2022, this video was captured and shared on TikTok. It shows this red B double with what's left of the back 3 wheels parked up at a truck stop. Now from what I've heard, the truck driver was aware that the back 3 wheels had blown out. Instead of pulling over like any other normal person would do, he continued to drive like this for over 10 kilometers. Now obviously this isn't very safe to do at all, and even more unsafe than doing it in a Mitsubishi Magna. So when the man behind the camera decided to confront the truck driver and ask him what he was doing, this is what he had to say. Alright, before we get into our last one, we've got to get through a whole bunch of honourable mentions. These are either people I've done an in-depth analysis on in my previous videos, or certain groups of drivers in our community that it'd be rude not to include. Alright, first up we have the all-time classic Clinton from Just Waiting for a Mate. This all-time classic clip, brought to you by Wild Turkey, has aged like fine wine and cemented it as one of the all-time classics. Another one in the same boat is Rami passing the breath test on RBT. That one bloke who got his Nissan Patrol to do 480 kilometers an hour on the Mooney Mooney Bridge. Darren from Bogan Hunters, who holds the prestigious title of Tasmania's second worst driver. Ford Ranger drivers, the elderly, this police officer who took a detour through Destination and of course this bloke right here from the Must Be Stuck in Third AU Falcon ad. Alright, now it's time for the one you've all been waiting for, the greatest driver in all of Australia's history. Now what I'm about to say might come as a shock to you, but Australia's greatest driver isn't a single person, it's a collection of people. And that collection of people are P-platers. Now if you've been watching my videos for long enough, you'd know that the P in P-plate stands for either performance or professional. And professional is exactly what P-platers think they are. Now P-platers have brought us iconic moments in history such as this, and this, just to name a few. Drifting roundabouts, doing burnouts at traffic lights, jumping speed bumps, and doing reverse entries in a front-wheel drive car are just some of the specialist skills that P-platers are the master of. Now while P-platers are required to display these plates on their car, some of the driving that you see them perform would be more suited to these plates. But unfortunately, this fully sick style of driving has its downsides. You see, every time an AU Falcon spins out drifting a roundabout on the way home from passing the P-plate test, that's one less AU Falcon on the road available for you to buy on Facebook Marketplace. And if you've pressed that subscribe button, it's safe to assume that you have a very high IQ, which means you'd be able to understand supply and demand. So basically what that means is that over the last 10 or so years, the amount of AU Falcons that have been crashed by P-platers mastering the art of the roundabout drift has caused the price of the AU Falcon to skyrocket from somewhere around $500 to well over $600. And on that economic bombshell, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you'd like to hear more teachings from the Prophet of Yorak Hunt. And if you enjoyed this video so much that you watched it all the way till the end, make sure to comment
I'm just waiting for a mate.
to let me know.
I'm on that good cushion alcohol.